Andrea. Hope you are doing really well today. Can you believe we are finally at our final chapter in our On the Road with Abraham series? It has been a great summer. It's been a great book club. Thank you so much for joining us. And you know what I love is that these videos will be here for you if you need to come back for them. If you need to go maybe through this study again individually or with a group of friends, you can access all of the different resources that are available right here on our Facebook page or even over on our YouTube channel. So we are so thankful for these resources. We're so thankful for you. We're so thankful that we can enjoy this journey together. Let's just take a moment and take in this journey. You know, we met Abram and now we call him Abraham way back in Genesis chapter 12. And here we are in Genesis chapter 22. And it has been a ride. It has been a journey. We have felt the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns. We have celebrated with Abraham. We have cried with Abraham. We have maybe like shaking our heads and thought, what in the world, Abraham? But through it all, what do we see? We see the grace of God. We see the mercy of God. We see the tenderness of God. We see the faithfulness of God. We see the pursuit of God. We see the truth that God is a way maker and that he draws us into intimacy and into a life that is changed and marked by him, and that we get to live that out in the everyday aspects of life. I'm so thankful for the story, the life of Abraham, and I'm so thankful that the truths that God taught Abraham are truths that can be so easily applied to our lives, to our journeys. I'm so thankful for the cross of Christ and how that demonstrated love of God in sending Jesus, and how all of the story of Abraham was ultimately pointing to that. We're not going to get into that on our video. You're going to discover that in your reading, but I am just overwhelmed as we come to this final chapter together, as we come to this final, portion of Abraham's story. This is the portion of Abraham's story where, God asked Abraham to trust him with Isaac's life, the long-awaited son, the promised one. And God is going to put Abraham to a test, and he's going to ask him to be willing to sacrifice Isaac. And through this test, and you're going to see the definition for a test in our chapter, you're going to see that it was for a purpose, to refine Abraham's faith. What we're going to see, and this is just so exciting, is that for really the first time, and in such a huge way, Abraham's faith and his belief and his actions and his reactions were lining up with God's character and God's ability and God's strength and his truth. We're going to see that Abraham responded in immediate obedience, and how he was talking, words of faith, but he was also demonstrating acts of faith, and how all of that was shaped by his belief and his relationship in God. And so I come to this chapter, and it's hard, to be quite honest with you. Genesis chapter 22 is a hard chapter to read. It's a hard chapter to digest. It's hard to think about what Abraham was going through in the moment. But it's a good chapter because ultimately it's teaching us about the provision of God, the power of God, the heart of God to provide the rescue that we need. And so keep your eyes on that storyline, because it totally changes our lives right here in our current time. Whenever I think about this story, and I write about it actually in chapter 9, I for so many years, I processed it wrong. I processed it through what could have happened instead of what actually happened. I thought about, Abraham in that moment, in that excruciating moment, and Isaac in that excruciating moment, and what that must have been like for them. And yes, I have no doubt it was super, super, super hard. But I often failed to focus on what God actually did in the moment, which was providing that ram. How God has always been a way maker, how God has always had a plan and a purpose that is good, that is redeeming, that is pointing towards the grace that he offers us every single moment of every single day. And so as I wrote this chapter, I thought about the message that I would want to give Abraham at the beginning of his journey up the mountain to worship God and to ultimately experience the provision of God, and what I would want to tell him if I had the chance as he was maybe at the base of that mountain about to walk up and face the reality of what it would be like to sacrifice his son. I want to tell Abraham to hang on. I want to tell him to be strong in his faith. I want to tell him that God is going to provide. I want to tell him while it's hard that the story isn't over. Those are the things that I want to tell him. But you know what? It wasn't until after I finished writing this book that I thought about the message that Abraham would want to give to us, that Abraham would want to testify to. I think he would want to testify to us that God is willing and able, that God is a way maker, to hang on, that God is working things together for good, that we can trust him, that a life of faith is absolutely the way to live, to crucify ourselves, to follow hard after Jesus, to live for the well done, and to know, as Hebrews chapter 11 alludes to, that our God is willing and able to move in our lives and through our lives. And so as a result of that, the very best way to live is by faith. And so as you come to this final portion of Abraham's story, I want to encourage you to open your heart to the Lord, open your mind to this journey, to this portion of the story, and ask God to teach you what it looks like to surrender in the moment, to live with immediate obedience, to worship the Lord in the midst of the hard and the unknown, to really trust him and to watch him to show up and to provide in your situation and your circumstance. I can testify, and I'm sure you can too, and I know Abraham would, that it is on the mountain, maybe in that most challenging and difficult situation and circumstance, that we learn the Lord provides. So experience his mercy, experience his grace. Keep your eyes on the prize of Jesus, my friends, and live by faith. I am so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for our time together. I want to encourage you to read this chapter, to answer those questions, and then consider taking the truths that you've learned through On the Road with Abraham, truths about faith, truths about trust, truths about the overall journey that God has for us, and pour that into another person's life. Share about the goodness of God, share about the mercy of God, share about the grace of God, and watch your faith continue to develop and grow. We really can have trust and faith for the journey. I love you so much, and I'll see you soon.